Thursday afternoon live, and seems like I haven't been here forever. It's been a long time. It's good to be back. Man, what all did we do? We had a Missouri show a while back. We had the Nationals the week before that. You had to put up with Cole last week.
Cole had to put up with me.
And that was a fun show to watch. I got to watch it, and we were traveling to Wisconsin, so I wasn't able to be here. But you and Cole held down the fort, and Caitlin very, very well. And Cole showed us a few tricks and tips on bobcats, and if you guys are mounting bobcats, I see all the time on like Taxidermy 101 or some of the forums on Facebook that people will bring up and say, I'm doing something the first time. Anybody have any ideas? Go through our archives, because we have a lot of great ideas, and it is really beneficial to all of you to listen to Cole's little, demonstration on bobcat eyes and ears, and there's just a lot. Cole was mounting bobcats down there before we even had bobcats in Iowa. I mean, I saw some of his walls of mounted bobcats, and he at that time did more, and still did more in a couple months time than we do in a 5 years time. We just for a long time bobcats weren't available. Well, they were protected, I think, for the most part for years and years, and we started seeing them trickle in from southern hunters and trappers, and but down in Missouri, they're kind of overrun with bobcats. So Cole has had a lot of experience with bobcats and with taxidermy in general. So anything Cole tells you, I think you can take to the bank. It's good stuff.
I'd be careful of that.
Maybe you can.
And Taxidermy University, he brought up several of the videos, and they had a new video that they were talking about promoting.
And that's Fish with Jimmy Lawrence, Fish 101.
Yep.
And he mounts a largemouth bass, I think. And Jimmy Lawrence is the one thing about any of the Taxidermy University productions. I gotta say, I think Cole is one of the best producers in this industry. He can't probably hold his own against Shades of Gray and stuff like that, but in the taxidermy industry, Cole is a great organizer, a great narrator, a great putting it together. He picks the best people for the best job, and so if you ever want to, teach yourself by aid of a video course, Taxidermy University, I'd say, is the way to go. It's tremendous.
Yeah, very, very.
Whether you want to do deer or turkeys, or bobcats or fish, reproduction fish,
and a wider array, a bigger library. It's pretty impressive. Deer 101, competition deer.
And how many discs are in these? Like,
100.
Don't they have like the Fish 101, like 6 or 7?
At least.
And
several.
And Clint Ricky's 101 deer, how many's in that?
A lot.
You and I did a deer many years ago.
Yes,
we did probably the most comprehensive how-to deer mounting DVD set. It was VHSN.
It was.
But when we transferred it to DVDs, we still had 3. Yeah. And we thought, people would, it was good to go to sleep. Play it on your little nightstand, and it's better than one of those, drizzling rain type recordings. But we sold that a lot for years and years. And we thought it was we included everything, and now they're into 6 and 7 DVDs, all high resolution. You're going to get to see, there's close-ups, there's products included, and they tell you, everything. It's a great way to learn taxidermy. So the last that I was around here, and maybe, I think I was, we did fish, and we set a fish eye, and top of the head. And with that, we use a lot of, in our class, when we were teaching students, we showed students we show them how to make casts, and we'll do that for you sometime too. That would be a very good one. We might have to do it out on the boat on a fishing trip. Would that be a good one?
I like that one.
And but something like this is extremely beneficial, because how do you know what this looks like? And if yours doesn't look like this, remember, we're not worried about color, we're worried about shape and texture. But if it doesn't look like this, oops, I moved it on you, sorry. How come, and how can we fix it to make it look like that? Yeah. Something interesting in doing competition fish before, I think one of the first things that I ever just astounded me was how a freshly deceased fish, because he'll hold still, if you pet him from the front, there's nothing that catches your hand, nothing. There's no raises, there's no bumps, there's no warts, there might be on some, but there's nothing. So do that to your own fish. Does it feel like that? A fish going against them, you know, you're gonna snag in every little fin and scale and things like that. But fish are meant to go forward, and that's just amazing. So all of your epoxy work and all of your mounting needs to be along those lines. Yeah, and would that be like hydrodynamic? It's hydro something, because it's got to do with water. But anyway, these are great aids, and we use them all the time in the shop. This is well, here's a walleye, for instance, and even this, it'll show you there's a smooth membrane right here. How far do you wrap that around? Where do the scales start and stop? Now, you can't see this because it's black and white, but, or I mean, it's not colored. It's not very colored, it's white. And so, but even this shows you what's the shape of this. This is all real important stuff. What do these fin bases look like where the fin rays join that little muscle right there? On a walleye, they're pretty darn smooth, and there's nothing raised. Here's, I think this is a northern, isn't it? Northern, and you can feel there's actual muscle. There's even wrinkles, and you got to realize that this fish is not alive anymore, but it still points you in an awful good direction. But casts are great, and we're going to show you how to do that at some point, because, yeah, that'd be a great one. And also, a fish out of the freezer. Take a fish out of the freezer, let him thaw out, and you can use him for quite a while for exceptional reference before you can't use him anymore. And you'll know when you can't use him anymore.
You won't want to use him anymore.
And so I think we showed you the top of the head, we showed you the eyes, we showed you the fins, we showed you the seam in the back. We like to fix that and make it look nice. There's all kinds of fixes. Mounting the fish, once you get the fish mounted, that's half the battle. Then we go into our repair work, all of our little shrunken areas. I used to have a whole raft of fish, and one at a time, I would go to every little fix-it, and I'd look them over, look them over, look them over. Oh, there's a pinhole I forgot, so I'd fix that little pinhole. Go to the next one. Oh, that one's got a big split in his fin. We got to fix that. Go to the next one. And we just kept shuffling them through until we couldn't find any more things to repair, and that's how you know when to go. So today, I think the one thing we haven't done yet is we haven't done the under jaw, and that all shrinks up dramatically and looks real bony and not very realistic. So all of this up in here is something that needs to be reconstructed also. And there's taxidermists out there that don't do that. Sure. I mean, when we first started, we always rebuilt it, and people would say, how come you're this many dollars an inch and that guy does it for this amount of inch? Remember, the rule in taxidermy is never run your competition down, but do show your customers what you do. Don't say, don't say that guy's fish are junk. Say, I don't know what he does, but here's what we do, and here's what we get paid for. So that's always a good tip. People appreciate it when you're not talking bad about somebody to make yourself. Don't cut somebody's legs off to make you look taller.
I like that one.
I have to do that.
Let your work speak for itself.
Got it.
Yeah.
But so we repair all those things, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of this type of stuff.
It does. It does.
So with that, do you want to show them the
Sure.
under jaw? And then I think we've got a couple walleyes done at that point, and we can start the painting process, sealing and painting process.
Do you want to show them a little bit of miscellaneous repair of your texture pad and let that set up while
I can do that.
before I start?
All right, on a fish, on anything really, but I'm going to slide this over here a little bit. Oftentimes you will have a damaged area on the side of the fish. I like fish because fish usually aren't in the condition that a bird is, you know, after a dog gets them or something like that. I think that's why I like fish so much. The product to begin with is usually a little bit better shape. But sometimes it's necessary to repair scales, for instance. So there's a lot of different ways to do that, and Brett's going to show you, you're using Fix-It Sculpt here. There's a lot of different epoxy putties. We have Clay, K-L-E-I, Ricky Crane's. We love that product. There's Fix-It Sculpt from Ave Studio. We love that product. There's epoxy sculpt, and there's a whole lot of different ones. You're just going to have to try them. We'll give you our opinion on them, and then get them and try them and see what you like best, because they all have a little bit different texture. They all have a little bit different feel, spreadability, that sort of thing. Yeah. So now you're just mixing that A and B equal parts, correct?
Yep. I just thought I would mix some up while you were telling them. This is what I think we used this same product on the top of the head a couple weeks ago.
Up in here?
This is Fix-It Sculpt, and this will be our sculpting compound for the lower jaw. So I was just getting it ready.
Now those people who have never used the epoxies before, notice when he's mixing it, he's dipping that in alcohol? Water?
This is water.
Water, yeah. Okay. And kneading it together. And it was always interesting because students would take this stuff home on the weekends and they'd work on their fish. And they'd bring them Monday morning, and you could look at them and you could say, I can see soft putty. Yes. And you could take a pin, and it was hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, where they had a swirl that they didn't get mixed like that.
Probably worth showing them.
A little marbling swirl. And it has to be mixed, so there's no, we call it marbling, so there's no marbling, and they're all the same, whether you're using clay or Fix-It Sculpt or whatever it happens to be. Make sure that you don't have marbling in two different colors coming together that aren't all mixed very well, or you'll have a sad day the next day. So anyway, he's mixing Fix-It Sculpt. Now what we would do if I had a damaged area in the side of this fish, I would take a little bit of Fix-It Sculpt, and remember, any repair, it depends on two criteria. Do you remember what those are? We talk about them all the time. Two criteria is all you have to worry about. One is texture, one is color. We're not dealing with color yet, we're dealing with texture. Just remember, two things is all you got to worry about. Easy peasy, very simple, texture and color. So we have to replicate the texture of the scales. So you can do that in a lot of different ways. Take the Fix-It Sculpt that Brett has, fill in the little damaged area, smooth it out real good with your water or alcohol or safety solvent's another thing you can use. Smooth it out, and then we have to texture the scales in. Everybody has a different magic formula for texturing scales. I've seen people take straw, McDonald's straw, cut it off at an angle, dip it in water, and press, 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 press in a shingle type formation. I've seen some very nice results with that. Some people do it the simple way, just take a terry cloth towel, wet it, and dab it over there. There is a product, I lost it somewhere, but I had a Easy Scaler, is that what it's called?
Oh, Maxi Scaler.
Maxi Scaler, and the Maxi Scaler is a product, it's a wheel, and you can roll it over here. It comes in different size scales, and the Maxi Scaler actually works very, very well, and it'll texture your scales. Now, I'm going to show you another method, and that is to make a texture pad. This is a texture pad made out of made out of latex rubber, and it's of a crocodile skin. And we did a crocodile, and we did the seam, and we wanted to texture the scale pattern. So we painted it with rubber latex. We painted, and we've done this on fish too. Paint the whole side with rubber latex, and then we put gauze on there to stiffen it up, and another couple coats of rubber latex. And then we peeled it off, and that gave us our scale texture if it was a fish, crocodile texture if it was a crocodile. We have these for hippopotamuses. We have them for all kinds of Cape buffalo horns, all different kinds. But I'm going to show you another product which we have, and we found a great use for it in the shop, and that is, it's called Amazing Mold Putty. Get this fish out of here a little bit. And Amazing Mold Putty is just a 2-part, user-friendly, really user-friendly, silicone putty. Comes in an A and a B. And this one sets up and you can work with it in 15 minutes, is that what it said?
I think you have about 3 to work with it, and
you can take it off in 15.
15 to 20.
So I'm going to take just a little bit of this silicone putty. Does not stick to your fingers. Equal parts, just like Brett did with now they're going to get confused. like Brett did with the Fix-It sculpt. Okay, we got 2 different things going on here. We're making a texture pad. He's repairing the top of a fish.
That's okay.
We're going to get calls. We're going to get calls on this. Okay, don't mix this with water or anything. Mix it just like so. Now, no marbling in this either. You don't want any marbling. When it's all one color, kind of a off-white to the yellow side, pretty yellow, this is going to turn to hard rubber. Whatever you put this on, it's going to take on that shape. Mix is really, really easy. It's real smooth to knead together.
And they could do this for anything, not necessarily just fish, but like you said, crocodiles. And
I'll give you your fish back. You're going to need that.
And but we can do it for rocks and trees and
And
habitat materials too.
we made wood slabs, little wood slabs. I'll do it on the front of this fish. Okay, I've got it mixed all together. I'm going to take a small amount, and I'm just going to push it right on the side of this fish. I'm going to find a spot that has really nice, good scale texture. And what I'm making, we call an impression pad. Now you can just push it on with your hand like that and leave it, or you can take, got kind of a dirty old roller here. I'm just going to roll it out a little bit. I want it, I'd say about a 1/16 of an inch thick. And you don't need hopefully your damage isn't any bigger than that. You're just going to need little, a little texture pad. You're going to need a small amount of that.
Depends on what they shot him with.
Yeah, that's true too. Okay, now you're going to let that sit for about 15 minutes. This stuff will start stiffening up where it won't work very good anymore in, like you said, 8 minutes. I did it on the back of this fish before we started. So, just like the cooking shows, we're going to switch to this one, and I'm going to grab a hold of it and peel it right off, and I have a perfect texture pad of the back of that fish's skin. You can see the scales right in there. You can see the lateral line. That is something I wasn't counting on, and so if you're repairing something and you get the lateral line in the wrong spot, that could be not such a good thing.
That's great. And you didn't put any release on that?
No, it doesn't stick to anything. And since I had some left over, I did it on this perch too.
Oh, I thought you spilled paint on that.
Look at that. Look at that one. This is a really great one.
I want to see. Ah, that's corn.
Looks like corn done. Looks better straight on at you. There you can see it. Look at that detail. That's perfect detail. Now.
And you did that how long ago?
Oh, right before we started late with technical difficulties, so I did it while we were
15, 20 minutes ago?
putting new
Maybe
batteries
half
in.
an hour? Yeah.
Now I have a little bit left here. Maybe I'll just stick it on this bass. You can never have too many impression pads. They take up zero room in your toolbox. They'll lay nice and flat. And They're always nice to have.
I like that as opposed to painting on layers of latex. This is much quicker and
Well, the latex takes a long time. That takes quite a while. So anyway, that's our texture pads, and if you had a place to repair, or even you could do it on the underjaw possibly. You know, I guess I'd repair one first.
or on from a cast maybe.
What I really think, and I know, anytime I say my secret's on the air, somebody's going to copy me, and then they will have done it, and I will not have. We do a lot of repairs on the rear end portions of fish, and I always thought it would be really nice to have perfect little stamps, so you could put a little epoxy there, take a stamp, dip it in water, and you have a walleye, or you have a 1 pound perch, or you have a 1 pound bluegill, or you got a 5 pound bass.
That would work.
On a little, and you'd have them on little sticks in order. It'd work so good.
I think that's going to be in the next catalog. Well, I'm going to do just a little bit on the bottom and try and rebuild that according to our reference. Tom showed you the fun stuff. Now we're going to go back to work. You can see how much shrink there is in the bottom jaw of this walleye versus the bottom of the cast. So we've got these two areas. The real skin, tremendously sunken in, and although the cast it has a few air bubbles in it, it's still very accurate. This was a really fresh fish when it was molded. So we're gonna rebuild the bottom of this jaw, and we're gonna do that in layers. And we probably won't get through the whole thing as we're working, but the idea is that we're going to build the lowest layer first. So if you look at this cast, Kate, you might want to get real close. I'll try to hold it still. We are going to build these two little gill cover flaps right here where they overlap. We'll build those first. And then on top of those, notice the center section lays over those two bronchial osticle rays down here. And then we'll go back outside again, and these layers will build over this. So rather than just fill this with epoxy and drag some lines in it, we're going to try and create a little bit more depth, and I'll do it in that order. So I'll get it started, and then you might have to do something entertaining while I'm waiting. But I'm going to start that just like we described right here on the bottom. And this fish, it's pretty sunken in. Might even hold that up for you.
Tail a little bit.
Might
You want him on a stand?
just a little higher, maybe.
How about a real stand?
I'm going to build this first. I'm going to push it in nice and down. Pretty simple. I'm not going to go too much detail on that. You could, I do notice there's a little spot sheen down here that if you wanted to, you can wrap this all off. It's nice to do that first. Grab another piece of epoxy and leave the overlap. I'm going to build the lowest one first. Then I'm going to overlap on top of that. We're going to use our fancy little sculpting tools and try to push that into place. Back to smooth it out right here.
You want to put that on?
Yeah, that would definitely help. Backside. We're going to stick this on a stand quick so my shaky hands don't.
You sit him down.
There we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop that. I knew that was going.
Do one more. This will just help you guys to see it a little bit better. Perfect.
Then I'll give
Then
you.
I'm going to come around and I'm going to do center section. Remember we said this center section here overlaps.
Stand right behind you here.
Oh man, you were good. That was fast.
Bob Fothery, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Hang on, wait, don't panic. We'll get 'em right back. I'm going to lower him down if you want to follow me. How's that?
Ooh, look at that.
And now we're just going to build this center section out. Thank you, Tom. That was a good idea. So we're going to build it all the way forward, just like we have here. Right there. This is what we're building now. And we'll build on both sides. And I mixed this fix-it sculpt up while Tom was doing the other. I'd say you have what, an hour, you think? Maybe 40 minutes?
Yeah, I was gonna say a short hour.
Yeah. That's right. It's gonna get kind of hard to work with after half an hour, 45 minutes.
And after you used enough of these different, I mean, every company has a different variety, and you're gonna pick out your favorite. One's gonna be creamier for you. I remember the old, we used to have Pliacre and things like that, and your finger, you had arthritis in your fingers by the time you got them mixed. They were so stiff to mix. They're coming up with so many different neat epoxy products for artists and craftsmen to work with, and you'll pick out your favorite, and that'll be your go-to type compound.
I mean, it's funny how many different ones. It's fun working in the shop because we get to see all these new products and so forth. And sometimes they just sit on the shelf because we don't get to them. We have our favorites, and then every now and then we'll pull out something new. And I think that's honestly been the case with several of these. Is they were here for a few weeks or maybe even a month before we looked at them.
Kind of a year, sometimes a year.
All right. I wasn't going to tell them that, but sometimes a year. But there really are different. You'll be struggling with something and want something better for a particular application, and sometimes it's out there. You know, if you wanted it to go just a little bit faster and blend a little bit better, I think the clay product from Ricky from Angler's Artistry.
Yeah.
That's a faster epoxy. It smooths really nice. You don't have as much working time, but there are certain applications where you just don't need a lot of working time and you need a quick setup. So that's kind of a special case that works out really well.
And as you're working with these, remember, don't mix tennis ball size, you know.
We want them to do that because then they'll end up.
Then they'll buy more, yeah. Then you'll buy more. Okay, do that. But you can mix so much that it starts setting up. Once it starts firming up, you lose control over what you're trying to do. It doesn't work for what you want anymore. So it's better to mix small amounts and feather one layer onto another layer, you know, little by little. We can always mix more.
Yes.
And it does stick to itself really, really well. And you can color it if you want to. It comes in color. Even Fix-It Sculpt comes in color, correct? And epoxy sculpt comes in a lot of colors. You can get fleshes, and you can get whites, and you can get browns and blacks. A lot of you deer finishing people, you can do your eye work with a darker color that you don't have to paint. You can add oil paints to them, which we do quite a bit.
Yep, and I think we showed them.
Yep.
We showed them some colors, which is awfully handy too. If they want to look back toward, I wonder what we would have done last when we did colored epoxies. It couldn't have, back of the throat. When we did the
Sure.
back of the throat.
We did pink, didn't we?
I think we did the pink epoxy, yeah. And now we've got just these other two, which I might be just a little bit short of material, but we've got the other side here that we're going to build. Like so. And don't be afraid to put a lot of pressure on this. You can really push hard and get it smooth. One thing that really stands out with epoxy work is something that's overbuilt and lumpy, not smooth like you said earlier. They won't have lumps and bumps. The fish need to be smooth. So I'm going to build that. And you can see I really don't have to drag my lines in. I'll come back and accent the layers, but I don't have to create those deep lines because they're already there from just building in the layers.
And another thing, when you're new to, reconstructing fish heads and fish underjaws and bird feed and things like that, you're going to be unfamiliar at first, and the less you put on, the better more realistic you're going to be. A professional that's done this for years and years and years, he's going to know how much to put on and what is realistic. But when you're unsure, a little is much better than a lot.
Yeah. And I'm going to do one last little layer. I'll leave this one off and come back. I think you've got some final prep that you want to show them.
Sure, we can do that.
I'm going to do just the leading edge of the jawline here. There's a lot of shrink in that little bit of a lip line. So we want to get some life back into that. And one thing to note, a lot of people like to see their big teeth, but that's really not very accurate. Those teeth usually sit under a membrane. You can see them poke through it, but when you rebuild this bottom lip here, lip line, you'll see your teeth look a lot more accurate. He doesn't look like a dinosaur.
That's like everybody thinks a drying bluegill is a piranha.
Yeah.
Is that a piranha?
Yes.
I've been asked that so many times. It's because their lip tissue is all shrunken back.
Yeah. Well, if I keep going here, do you want to
Yep,
talk to him about yours?
you go. The next thing that you're going to want to fix all of the little areas of repair. We had on the back of this fish, he had a couple little areas in the fin where I probably stuck a scissors through, and we fixed those with a little bit of epoxy sculpt. I can peel my texture pad off now here too.
That's the one you just did?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's not almost ready, but it did take up all that texture. Have to lay it out flat. But he's all been reconstructed, his vents reconstructed, top of the head, bottom of the head. Now the next thing we're going to do is paint him, and it's called a substrate. We need a substrate to paint on. And a substrate is, metal can be a substrate if you're painting a car, plastic can be a substrate if you're painting a little soldier. We have organic dried skin. We want to give that a nice base for the paint to adhere to. The first thing I want to do is I want to take a brush of some sort and I want to clean him off real good. You can take compressed air, but if he's been laying around, especially in our shop, they're going to get dusty. So I don't want to have any dust on him, so I'm going to I just using we call them a chip brush, and it's just a cheap little paintbrush that I can brush any dirt off of him. And you can, like I said, take compressed air or anything that you like. Okay, now we're going to paint him with Createx. I think next week we're going to start the painting process, and no matter whether we use lacquer paints or a water-based acrylic paint, our new go-to, I think you'd say, is our Createx transparent sealer. Yeah. It works good no matter what you're painting with. Lacquers stick to it, water stick to it. It's going to go on just like Elmer's glue, and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I ruined him. Do make sure that it says 6,000 transparent sealer on it, because there's white and there's gray primer and there's clear. So you don't want to, the white and the clear are going to look exactly the same when you put it on, except the white is going to stay snow white like paint, and the clear is going to turn clear. So it's very important that you make sure what you're putting on. Make sure we didn't mistakenly send you white, which could happen.
We wouldn't do that.
Nope. Now it looks like just kind of a heavy latex paint. I'm going to take the same brush. I use these very inexpensive chip brushes for the simple reason that I don't take care of my tools. And I will let this dry up, and I could go up to the hardware store and I can get a really nice soft bristled brush that would work perfect for acrylics, and I would use it and let it lay here, and all of a sudden I would have a $15 brush that I ruined. That's the only reason I'm using the chip brush, and the only thing you're going to want to watch for is these do lose bristles. So when you're all done, take a look at him to make sure that you didn't lose any bristles. I'm going to paint him. I like to paint him with the against the scales. I'm sorry, paint him against the scales. And if I have any slightly lifted scales, that Createx sealer will go up underneath them and glue them down. It's a great adhesive product. Not to be used as an adhesive, but it will glue down your scales.
And are you only going over your scaled areas, or are you going to go over any other of our fix-its?
I'm going to go over every fix-it. I am necessarily not going to go over the fins. Our fins have all been treated to be flexible, so I'm not going to go over my fins, but I'm going to go over everything else. And you notice I'm not doing something like this. I could. I think I get a better finish just going one direction against the scales. And it'll give you kind of a hazy looking finish on your fish, but it's going to dry crystal clear. Now I let it drip down on my fin. I'm just going to stroke it right off the fin. You're not even going to know it was on there. And I go all the way around the whole fish. You could thin the Createx sealer and you could spray it on. We've always used lacquer sealers, and they've always worked fine for us. There's no odor to this. This is like Elmer's glue.
I mean, that'll give just a slightly heavier seal too, a slightly heavier coat than the lacquer sealer, which is kind of nice. These walleyes dry with such a coarse texture. That leaves the walleye feeling very, 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 very real.
Now I'm going to go around my eye as careful as I can. You can put on eye protect. You can put on, we use a lot of clay when we finish our fish. When we paint them, we use oil-based clay. That is a confusing thing. When we're around our shop, we talk about clay, and we always have to clarify K-L-E-I with C-L-A-Y. Now I've got some fix-its on the back. I'm just going to go right over my fix-its. Now as the sealer starts to dry, it dries pretty fast. As it dries, you're going to get brush strokes and it's going to start rolling up on you. So if you feel that, leave it alone and don't go over it anymore. Got 2 projects going here at one time.
You do?
No, you.
Oh.
One for you and one for me.
Oh, that's good. We're getting stuff done.
We don't get this much work done during the day. Okay. I've got him all sealed. If I wanted to, if I miss, now I would, his mouth isn't open very far, and I would like to get as much in there as I can, but because it's quite closed, I can't, I'd have to use a tiny little brush, and if I really wanted to get in there, I'd maybe spray it. The problem with spraying is I think I waste a tremendous amount. Okay, now I'm just going to check for drips. I think I've got him all good. And my brush will clean up with water. So that's how we would seal him. I wouldn't mind laying him down for a little while till I make sure my sealer is set. But I think he's looking pretty good. So that's the next step that we would do after all of our repairs. Now, if I had a little repair that I think, oh man, I missed that, now what am I going to do? I've already got him sealed. Don't worry. Go ahead and fix your repair and reseal over that area if you think it's necessary. Now, the 6000 clear sealer is going to give you an exceptional substrate is the word to paint on. All of your paint is going to have the same, the skin's going to have the same value. Sometimes when you paint fish, this is really hard up here. The bony areas, the cartilagey areas is very hard. Some of it's very soft, depending on how it's fleshed and what's underneath. This sealer gives you all the same type of a surface to paint on.
You always pick on me for using big words. That's a big word.
I wouldn't even know what it was if it wasn't for Createx. And next week, I think we're going to start the painting process. And I wouldn't doubt we could drag that out for a long, long time on a walleye. But I'm going to say that we'll probably spend a couple sessions on painting him. And then we'll probably even put him on a, not next week, but in the coming weeks, one of our neat bases.
Yeah.
You better get a picture of this, Kate. Get a close-up of that, because that's kind of impressive epoxy work.
That's kind of, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up.
That's kind of pretty.
But I'm just using alcohol now to do some final finish work and putting in some soft details. That's one thing that we hadn't really touched on earlier was finishing. Any of the epoxies, you can use solvents to blend and soften your work, but be careful not to mix with them or use them too early because you'll just make your surface sticky. I like to think of it as a finishing step. So the last thing I'll do is a little alcohol or a safety solvent. I've used lacquer thinner, but lacquer thinner gets really sticky. But just as a final finishing step and softening, I like to use the brush and just soften all our tooling marks.
We have safety solvent, we have alcohol, we have water, we have lacquer thinner, all different sort of things, yeah.
All of those things can be used as a finishing.
And the next thing, I think we probably will spend a large portion of next week describing Createx. And there's just things to know about this great product. And we've used it for, oh man, at least maybe 2.5 years or so. And we don't use an exhaust fan anymore. There's no odor, and I think the colors are brighter. The selection is tremendous.
I think the pigment coloration lasts longer too. I think that
We've always noticed that with our lacquer paints. Some lacquer paints tend to wash out in time, and whether it's the fluorescent lights, or if it's, some people blame it on the fluorescent lights, and I don't know if I've ever pinpointed to what it really is. Sunlight coming in the window, but it seems like sometimes, or something that I did in the process, fish tend to fade.
Yeah.
And they can be colored up again, but it's a different kind of color. It's more like reproduction painting rather than fish skin painting.
it is, and that's one thing I'm really excited about with Createx. I think they're marketed as UV stable, or some of them are.
So next week we'll probably give you a beginner's course in Createx and start painting maybe a little towards the back half of the segment. And we have a lot to do. We usually start on our fish. We'll paint the bellies and the fleshes, which is kind of fun to do for me, and you are the master at that. And it kind of brings the fish to life, and all of a sudden with that small step and that introduction to painting the whole fish, he starts coming alive to me anyway.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fun. So we'll probably maybe try to get some base colors down next week.
Sure.
I think.
Sure. So with that, I think, are we going to leave them? And we're going to give away, and we have, was this it? Sealer?
Yes.
And I forget from the time we decide to the time. Okay, you're going to get Createx Sealer. You can use this on your deer noses, deer eyes, any membranes on a deer. You can use it on your fish. You can use it on your bird feet. You can thin it down with water. It also has its own thinners. 3011, 3012, 4011 or 4012.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different. Or you can use alcohol to thin it, and you can use water, I think, to thin it. There's specific thinner reducers, not thinners. But it's a great product. We use it a lot in the shop, and it's a good sealer. It dries, I'd say, within the hour.
Yeah, this one's already starting to.
I can. It's tacky, but it's not dried yet, and it will turn clear when it's dry. And so, auto air color from Createx, clear. You're going to get a bottle of this, and who gets it?
Tammy Cruciati.
Was it Tammy?
Tammy.
Tammy? Congratulations, Tammy. This will go out with your next order. Is that correct? How that works?
Correct.
And all she had to do is like and share, like and share, like and share.
Yes, like and share this video to be entered in next week's giveaway.
Now, if they like and share 10 times, do they get 10 tickets in a bucket?
Ooh.
How do they do that? How does that work?
Yeah. It's something we can definitely think about.
The more they like and share, the better chance, right?
Definitely. I see there's this new star feature where they can send us stars, but they have to pay for it. And it looks like Salvatore Grima sent us 99 stars.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, it's Facebook's new thing. So
New gimmick.
Wow.
maybe we'll have to do new incentives with those Facebook stars.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Caitlin, for your service again. We would be lost without you here. Thank you, Brett, for teaching us all these fun things about fish. And thank you for joining us. We just can't say enough about it. I mean, we meet a lot of you people when we go to shows, and I think the girls when they went to the Nationals were astounded by how many people actually watch us and come up and say something. Thanks to you. So join us again next week, and we'll be here with